YouTube, Super Megaforce here with a review of the Power Ranger Super Megaforce Legendary Action Heroes Wave 2, which overall is Action Heroes Wave 4. But our second set of Legendary Rangers, which mostly consists of Reds and 6th. In fact, that's all it consists of. But anywho, our second set consists of Red Zeo, Red Lightspeed, Red Wild Force, Red Ninja Storm, Red Jungle Fury, Red RPM, and Gold Samurai. So we at least have one guy that's not red. Quick look at the back of the packaging here. They did something new with this wave. So all the repackages in this wave, which I think was Megaforce Red, Mighty Morphin Green, and I think one each of the Super Megaforce Rangers, the males anyway. All have this little bio. So you got a bio, what team they belong to, their human name, battle gear they used, and Zords they used. So you have that for all of the Rangers in this assortment. Obviously, I only have the ones for the 7 that I purchased. But I will take a quick pic of all of these and have them on my blog if you want to take a look at them. Ranger Crew also has a nice photo gallery with all of the bios in it as well. So, quick little look at here. Mighty Morphin White was, as far as I know, supposed to be a part of this wave, but ended up not being in the case assortment. So I don't know if he's going to come out by himself later in a revision, or whether he got pushed to a different wave, but regardless, we only have 7 here instead of 8 like last time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at these one by one, and we'll see where that gets us. Now, I don't really have any other PR figures out of storage to compare to, so we're just going to take a look at the figures by themselves. If you want to see some figures next to previous incarnations, Dawson Rider's review actually does a really good job of that. So check his review out if you want to see some comparisons. So here is Red Zeo, and he was the pain for me to get. I missed him at Toys R Us when I got the other 6, so I had to wait until Amazon stocked them. Toys R Us sells them for $9.99, Amazon sells them for $11.99, so he was a little bit more expensive. But he's Tommy, so of course he's got to be more expensive. But anywho, he's a nice figure. I do really like him. The Zeo suits are always very weird for me. They're just, it's weird. O Ranger had some designs, certainly. If you like the design, it's obviously a very, very nice figure. The shoulders are always going to be a little bit weird because they're so disjointed from the rest of the body. But that's a trait that all of these figures share because they're all the same mold. So, that's where we're at. Pop his weapons off. Just going to go over the articulation on one of these since they are all the same. There's no armor bits that will stop any of these from being any different than any other ones. Rotation here at the head. A pin swivel at the shoulders. Single joint swivel. A swivel joint right there. Swivel down at the boot. And then single joint at the knee. No waist movement or anything like that on these. So that is all for Red Zeo. He does include the gun and sword weapons, but does not include the saber whose name I'm blanking on right now, his actual individual weapon. And that's unfortunate because it's actually kind of a neat weapon, and I would have liked to have seen more with those than just these. It is possible to get 3 weapons with these figures, so it's not really like a cost-cutting measure or anything. I just don't really know why it wasn't included. But anyway, both of these can peg into his waist just like that, or they can be held in the hand by Mr. Oliver, so he can go shoot some cogs or what have you. And here is Carter Grayson, Red Lightspeed Rescue, as he always referred to himself in the third person once, I think. But yeah, I don't like Lightspeed at all as a show, as designs, etc. So there's really nothing redeeming about this figure to me, but it is a nice figure. I don't really have any problems with it. This mold in general does have the muscles, as you can see, but they're very much toned down. I don't see it as that big of a deal on these figures. So it's nice to have a very lesser musculated version of these, since the Lightspeed was in the era of figures where they were just like roided up to no end. So it does include a V-Lancer, which I really like. I don't have any Lightspeed figures with their V-Lancers since I bought them secondhand. So it's nice to have a little V-Lancer weapon. It is a little bit bent out of shape thanks to the way that Bandai packages their toys. They really need to get on that. And it does have the Rescue Blaster, which is overall a decent little weapon. Some actually pretty decent molded details on these weapons. Just unfortunately it's hard to notice most of them because of the lack of paint. But we're used to not painted weapons. Even Bandai Japan figures don't have painted weapons, so... So if you're a fan of Lightspeed, again, a very nice representation of Red Lightspeed Ranger. And the inclusion of a V-Lancer I think is really cool. That kind of wins the figure for me, since the V-Lancers were always pretty neat weapons. Next up is Red Wild Force, which is alright. I don't really have any issues with the figure. He does have the orange stripes on his helmet, which I think is a nice touch. Sometimes we get figures without that stripe, and that actually technically makes it wrong, because the actual suit does have those orange stripes. They're probably not as noticeable as they are on this figure, per se, but it is nice that they actually did include them. You got the sash going around here, so you do have some paint on the back, which is always nice. And the logo right there. The logo looks a little bit cartoonish, I think. I don't know. It might just be me. But you do have a gold Crystal Saber right here that he can hold in his other hand. And then you have the lion little punchy thing here. And it's an interesting weapon because it is very, very tiny. I mean, here it is in the palm of my hand. And it's just really small. The weapon in the show wasn't that big, but I'm pretty sure it was bigger than this. So it more or less just kind of gives him a glove, like a little punchy glove. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I wish it was a little bit bigger. But in terms of the actual figure, it is a nice overall figure if you don't have any sort of other representation. If the helmet doesn't bother you, then by all means it's actually really, really good. I can't get him to stand. There we go. Now this guy is unfortunately the loser of the bunch. The body itself isn't that bad. I think with the arms being a different sort of color than the rest of the body, the really like beefy shoulders that they got going on because of the design is really noticeable with him, and so it makes him look very off. Additionally, the white outlines on his helmet are absent, meaning he looks weird on top of it. Now that's not too hard to fix. You can do a quick whitewash up here, or if you have a thin enough paint pen, just fill it in yourself. So that's not a huge deal, but considering how all the other helmets are actually very nicely done, especially when we get to Gold Samurai and Red RPM, why that's not included is a mystery. I don't quite get it. You do got the morpher down here on the arm. And the sword does peg right into his back, just like it does in the show. However, there's no holster, which is a thing that bothers me, given how Samurai has his holster. So that's a little bit of a bummer. It does fit in his hand just fine, though. So you got that at least. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Shane here is our loser of the figures. Now here's where things start getting tricky, because the Jungle Fury figures were phenomenal. They were probably the best figures Bandai America has produced for the Power Rangers line, in my opinion. So this figure already has a little bit of an uphill battle going for it. If you do not have that Jungle Fury figure, then this isn't that bad of a figure. He does include the Tonfas and the staff, which is a weapon that, if I remember right, Casey never used. But it does go in both modes, so it's a nice little weapon inclusion. But I would have rather have seen Shark Sabers, since Casey actually used those. So I'm actually just going to set those aside, since they're technically not his. It does come with the Jungle Chucks, though, so I will give him that. Like I said, he's not an awful figure by any means. He fits in perfectly with the rest of the group. Jungle Fury also has a thing where it was a very plain design. I mean, these legs are just simply red plastic. There's no paint on here whatsoever, and that's because of the suits. The suits are actually very plain down there. So I can't really fault the figure for that, because it's a merit of the design, really. But the stripes are very nice on the back here. And like I said, it is a nice figure that does match all the rest of them. But it just kind of pales in comparison to the original Jungle Fury figures. RPM is another line of great figures. They weren't as good as the Jungle Fury ones, but they were still phenomenal. So he's got a little bit of an uphill battle going for him too. But he pulls it off quite a bit better than the Jungle Fury release does. He's just a nice looking figure overall. The seat belts are obviously just painted on compared to the molded ones of the actual RPM figures. But given how they're making these figures with just the same mold, it's a little bit to be expected. The only real differences in the molds are the head sculpts and the details on the cuffs. Outside of that, you're looking at the same thing. The belt buckle too, I guess. But he's not that bad of a figure. If you like RPM, don't have a representation yet, by all means pick him up. He's a great figure. I love the head sculpt on him. I've been really taking a good look at most of the head sculpts, but there's a lot of details there, and the headlights in particular I think are very well done on this figure, so I'll give credit where credit's due. I think the head sculpt is very nice on him. He does include the saber and his blaster, which has a very thick handle, so it's a little bit hard to work into his hand. So you got that going for him. Nothing really on the back here. But like I said, it's a nice looking figure if you don't have any other representations of RPM. Finally, my favorite of the bunch, the Gold Samurai Ranger, Antonio. I really like Antonio. And he's honestly probably the best figure of this group. Now, Gold Samurai had that thing where he was released in the line of 4-inch figures. And so, as such, he didn't have a 5-inch figure release. So, this is our first 5-inch Gold Samurai figure. And it works very well. The gold here is a lot more matching to the suit in the show. I think the blue is actually a little bit darker than the suit in the show, but the gold itself looks very nice. You have the Barracuda Blade back here, and it does include the holster, which I think is a nice touch, which makes me a little bit upset at the Ninja Storm figure. So he can hold both of these, even though the holster's a little bit thick. So it's a little bit difficult to hold on to. So he can hold on to both of those like he did in the show, except I think he did one underhand, but oh well, I effed that up. But it does have the little morpher that plugs in on the side. I kind of wish that was molded in a little bit better. I might glue that in, because there's no reason for that to come out, really. And it's just a nice little figure. It matches with the Red Samurai from the last wave very well, actually. And it's my favorite figure of the bunch. It looks nice. We don't have any other representation of it, so it's nice to finally have a Gold Samurai Ranger that can sort of fit in with some previous figure releases. So overall, as with the last review, these figures are not bad. If you don't have any representation of most of these guys, they're definitely worth the pickup. And in some cases, they're actually better than their previous releases because just the fact that they have less muscles and actually look a little bit more screen accurate. The shoulder joints still bother me, especially on Ninja Storm Red. It's just so painfully obvious that the shoulders are weird that it kind of distracts me. Plus the white on the helmet, or lack thereof, is very distracting. So Ninja Storm definitely is not worth it. If you're a completist, obviously you do want to pick him up, but if you're only picking and choosing, I would not go after Ninja Storm. Gold Samurai is the winner of the bunch for not really having any sort of previous release whatsoever. Plus, all in all, it's a nice little figure. If I had to pick my favorite of the Red Rangers, it would probably end up being Zeo. As much as not really a big fan of Zeo, Zeo didn't really have a whole lot of figures going for it, so it's worth a pickup just to have a fairly decent scaled Zeo release. So at the end of the day, they're worth picking up if you have picked up the other figures. It'll be very cool to have a full sort of Forever Red-esque lineup of figures that are using the same mold, so they're all the same height and they're not all weird and muscular, and then some are sleek like Jungle Fury. So it'll be nice to have a display of the Red Rangers that are all within the realms of normality towards each other. At $9.99 a piece, they are a little bit pricey. At Amazon's $11.99 a piece, they're definitely pricey. But if you can find these at like Target for I think $8 $886 or whatever they're selling them for nowadays. That's not too bad at all. So kind of keep your eye out, pick what you want, but at the end of the day, they're still very nice figures for their price, and I do recommend picking them up. Even Ninja Storm, he's just kind of the red-headed stepchild of these red-headed people. So thanks for watching, take care, and have a great one. Bye.